Welcome to the DSO Hygienist podcast. This podcast is for everyone in the DSO space. Whether you're a hygienist, dentist, assistant, or leader, we're here to bring you expert insights, real-world strategies, and conversations to help you thrive. I'm your host, Christine Deal, and together we'll explore how to elevate patient care, grow professionally, and navigate the ever-evolving world of DSOs. Let's get started. Dr. Sonia Szamocki is the CEO of O1 Health, which helps dental offices and DSOs drive new revenue through specialty care, including orthodontics and sleep. A former ER doctor, she founded O1 Health in 2022 around one insight: the bottleneck to the latest healthcare isn't cost, it's access. She is one of the first to put the hygienist at the center of practice growth. O1 Health is an end-to-end enterprise platform designed specifically for multi-site dental groups and DSOs. It provides practice leadership with a single interface that tracks the entire patient journey, from first lead through education, conversion, and clinical workflow. O1 Health helps practices deliver specialized level care more efficiently and accessibly, turning fragmented specialist care into a single connected system. I want to welcome Dr. Sonia to the DSO Hygienist podcast. Welcome, Dr. Sonia.
Thank you, Christine. It's great to be here.
I am extremely excited because now we're talking to somebody across the pond, and you are doing so many amazing things, and we want to talk about those today. I'm going to get started with the questions. Dr. Sonia, let's start with O1 Health. Tell us who you are, what you've built, and the role you play in the DSO market today.
Okay. It's a long story. I'll try and keep it short. So as you can tell, I'm based in London at the moment, but I do spend a lot of time stateside too. I'm a physician by background. I'm an ER doctor by background. I've spent time working in the healthcare sector for the last 15 years. I've worked in management consultancy at the Boston Consulting Group, and I've built medtech startups before in the rare disease space. So having done that for a number of years, my goal was to try and help patients get access to specialty care. And so O1 Health is essentially the ecosystem and the technology that helps doctors deliver the highest quality specialty care to patients that are already coming into their practice, into their offices, and in their local area. So at the moment, we do that for two healthcare verticals. We call them orthodontics and sleep, and we work directly with dentists and DSOs on that. So ultimately, what we do is we help DSOs drive new revenue through specialty care, but we do that completely end to end. So I think what's unique about the product, and I think the mission as well, is that it's not just the clinical side, it's not just the workflows, it covers everything from lead generation, to clinical treatment planning, to patient communication, monitoring, the actual devices themselves. And we as a business, we only do well when our partners do well. So when our DSOs do well. So we're very aligned, and we only build things that work, in driving new business revenue, and making sure that patients have good outcomes at the same time.
So this is like having a specialty right in your office.
That's it. Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. So AI is top of every DSO's shopping list right now. What do you think most DSOs are getting wrong about that?
I talk a lot about this because we use AI everywhere in our business. And that's not just building tools for people to use that include AI, but also in order to drive our internal processes. And I think the problem that exists at the moment is that there is a lot of hype, and everyone is afraid of missing out on the promised benefits of AI. We hear a lot and read a lot about the transformative impact of AI. And so I feel like a lot of the conversations are around someone has already decided to buy something that uses AI because they thought that they should. And then they're retrospectively figuring out what problem it's going to solve. So I think this is quite cool. I think everybody else is using it. Let me see if I can justify it to myself or to the board or whoever. And I think the challenge is, as a leader in DSO or anyone working in a DSO, is kind of keeping your head and starting with the problem that you're trying to solve, and then thinking about whether AI can actually solve that problem, and then being really specific. So what is it actually going to do for me? If I could, get $1 for every time I hear the phrase, do more of what you love because AI is going to take the heavy lifting off your plate. That doesn't really mean anything. What exactly is it going to do for your business? And being really clear about that. I think most of the conversations that I have with DSOs, and when I really ask them what the problem is, they're asking about revenue and they're asking for same-store growth. But a lot of the AI tools that are in the market promise cost saving and efficiency. Nothing wrong with that. But I think you just need to have a candid word with yourself about what that actually means. If you're investing in technology that drive efficiency, where does that actually fit in the financial model, in the budget line? And where do I have to believe that it's making a difference? And if it's too tangential, if it's too many steps removed, then again, you need to be honest with yourself that what the actual impact is that you can expect to see, other than feeling good about, adopting new technology in the organization.
You said DSOs should build the dashboard and buy the chatbot. Walk us through what you mean by that.
Okay, so this is a heuristic that I use to try and help people determine whether they should be using the powers of AI to try and create things for themselves that they could never have built before alone, versus where you should be using a specialist vendor who understands how to build AI technology. Because AI has really changed how easy it is to build things. I mean, I'm not going to patronize your audience by telling them that they should open up Claude or ChatGPT and try and build something, because I'm sure everyone has done that. So the barriers to building software have somewhat disappeared, or they've certainly reduced. So when you're faced with that situation, you have to decide, well, when am I going to try and build something myself because I now can, and should I? So the mental model that I use is that you should be building your dashboards and buying your chatbots. And the reason that they're different is because a dashboard is an internal facing tool that tends to be read only. So by which I mean it reads from your data. So that is a relatively easy thing for you to build. Your marketing team can build a dashboard to look at marketing performance very, very easily. And because it's only internally facing, the worst thing that's going to happen is it's going to make an error and your internal team are going to see it. And they're almost certainly going to be able to fix it because they can probably tell if the number is wildly off. That is very different from building, for example, a patient-facing clinical chat tool that is going to be advising patients on their treatment options. That I would leave to specialist vendors like us who have built custom models specifically for this, who know how to control for all of the variables that go into a tool like that, and the harnesses around them and the evaluation frameworks. So I'm a huge proponent that everybody can and should be building an AI and should be trying it, not least because even just trying it helps you understand it more. But I think you need to have a conversation at a leadership level of what are the things that we can feasibly build and therefore should build, and when are we in search of someone who has actually developed deep expertise in this area, and it's just quicker, cheaper, easier for us to buy it.
What do you think is the biggest thing that DSO leaders miss
in making a decision about I think that they miss the opportunity to build things themselves. So, a lot of the problems that I hear are relatively straightforward problems around analysis and insights. So they don't know what's going on the ground, and it doesn't take a huge amount of work to centralize your data, or at least some of your data, and ask some of your internal team to generate some easy insights that can get you started. I think the knee-jerk reaction is, well, let's buy the most sophisticated analytics that we can possibly find on the market because we have such a complicated business, and it's not possible that the answers are actually quite simple. So I think what they miss is taking the step to nominate some people in the team to say, go away for 2 weeks, have some Claude credits, and you go and tell me what you think we can build internally. And even if you build something you don't end up using, those people will learn a huge amount, and they will be able to appraise the vendors that come along that have the really sophisticated stuff much better.
So where does O1 Health fit into that picture? What have you built differently?
Yeah, so I think that O1 Health is essentially a growth engine for a business. And so what we have had to do is build every single tool that you would need in an office to drive specialty care at much higher volumes and much higher quality. So we've had to take every part of the workflow, whether it's, as I said, marketing and lead generation, or the clinical treatment planning on the dentist side, or the dentist education, or the front of house. We've built all of that into a single ecosystem so that anyone can use it and anyone can perform like the highest performing specialty clinic. And so we have had to learn not only the best practices from the best performing DSOs and make it accessible to everybody, and figure out which parts of that flow should be done by AI or our product, and which parts have to be done by a human. Because as much as I'm a proponent for AI, I am ultimately a medical doctor, and I believe in the importance of human connection with patients, and there are some things that only humans can do. So it's trying to find the balance with how do we give people the tools that they need to be exceptional at their job, take most of it off their plate, but really focus them on the bit where nothing replaces that human touch. And for us, that's not just about the dentist. It's about every single person in that office, because the front of house, the hygienist, the assistants have just as big a role to play in driving growth, especially in these specialty treatments where you have a lot of demand in your patient base that you're not extracting. They need to have specific education tools, incentives, all of those things to help drive the practice to growth.
Yeah, most tech in dentistry is built for the dentist, but you've made a bet on the hygienist as the growth engine. Why is that?
Yeah, not exclusively the hygienist. The dentist is still the growth engine, and they have a very sophisticated suite of tools that they use. What I think most people have missed is how powerful the role of the hygienist can be, and how if you focus on them and build very specific tools for them and for them only, you are going to start to see how much of a growth engine they can be. So I'd say that it's tools for them as an underutilized, resource. So what I think I try and explain to people is, and this audience will understand this, is that people see the hygienist more often than the dentist. And I actually have to explain to my physician friends as well that people go to the dentist more often than they go to a doctor, like a medical doctor. So there's a huge amount of power there, and you have a huge amount of responsibility to educate patients about what you can see in their mouth. And their mouth is connected to their body. I think the artificial distinction that we make between mouth and body is absurd. And I think we do need to start seeing it as part of a whole. So if you've got a doctor type, in this case a dentist, or a hygienist, also a highly trained clinician, looking in a patient's mouth, I think they are responsible for surfacing what they can see. And so we have built tools specifically for the hygienist to guide a conversation, a patient education conversation around what they can see. Because when you've seen the same patient every 6 months, and every time you've been cleaning and there's crowding there, and you're like, this is just making my life hard, why are we not having a conversation about putting those teeth in the right place? Right? And the answer to that is that hygienists are not given the tools, they're not given the time, and they're just told that you should just be educating patients. And it's not easy to fit that into a short appointment. And it also doesn't always feel natural to shift the conversation from a clean into what might be perceived as a sales conversation, which I don't think it is, but it can feel like that. So building specific tools, and we call it hygiene, for a hygienist to guide the conversation into what you can see, what you think will be best for the patient, is not only doing them a service, but also is obviously a great growth engine for the practice.
So tell us about hygiene. What does it actually do in the chair?
So chairside, you've got a tablet or a phone, and you take some photos of what you can see in the mouth. And the tool essentially does a whole bunch of AI analysis and allows the hygienist to explain on screen what is happening in the mouth. So for example, it will analyze the amount of crowding. It'll explain what the implications of that are. It'll allow them to educate them on what the treatment options could be and how long that might take. Show them similar cases of people that have been treated. Maybe talk a bit about the staining that they can see. Really annotate the mouth to show them, we call it a digital mirror. You're showing the patient what you can see, because patients never get to see an occlusal view of the mouth, right? If you can zoom in on what you can see, that's a revelation for many patients, and they want to hear what you think they should do about it. So all of this is contained in a really simple chairside tool. It takes a couple of minutes to do, and everything you can send to the patient. So you can send them away with your guidance or advice, and they can review it at home. They can get, for example, a beautiful AI-generated image of what their teeth would look like straight. Right? That's a really nice thing to be able to do for someone. It doesn't mean that they're going to necessarily immediately buy orthodontic treatment, but it does mean that they've thought about it and they know it's possible, because so many of the patients that we treat with our dentists are not in the 25 to 35-year-old bracket of I'm dating so I want straight teeth. It's also older people who didn't even realize that they could get braces because they thought braces were for kids. And if your hygienist has taken the time to explain to you, actually, no, that this is a service that we offer, it can be hugely powerful. And the same goes for sleep as well. So, we haven't talked much about that here, but I'm very passionate about managing patients with sleep apnea better, and the use of mandibular advancement devices for that. I trained at Oxford, and I also did a neuroscience degree that focused on sleep. And back in those days, there wasn't really much around in the clinical literature about the importance of sleep. It was sort of one of those things you could always be proud of not sleeping. It's like a badge of honor of, burning the candle at both ends, and, whereas now I think we're much more conscious of the importance of sleep. And I don't think that we have joined up our medical and our dental communities well enough in the treatment of sleep apnea. And we certainly aren't educating patients about the options available to them. So again, if you're seeing your hygienist twice a year and you say to them, like, I'm snoring, I'm sleeping terribly, to be able to say, look, do you know there's actually something that can be done about that. It's actually a device. It's custom made. It's approved. And let's at least have a conversation about whether you might be appropriate for that. I think that's a hugely powerful addition to essentially a hygienist portfolio of skills.
Yeah, I really like that. I like that. Sleep is something I think we need to get more into in the dental field. So paint us a picture. What does a day look like in a practice running O1 Health where the hygienist is fully empowered?
Okay, so we would have every single person within that office onboarded onto a specific product that is for them. So what we try and do is make it very easy for each person to know what they're supposed to be doing. So for example, for the front of house, there's specific tools that they use to introduce patients to the treatments that are available. Again, there's a lot of AI involved in that. It's completely customized to the office. So their job is to make sure that anyone who's walking in that door is aware of the sorts of treatments that are being offered, and that patients can take themselves through essentially an education journey that they can review in their own time to understand all the treatment options that are available. The hygienist, rather than having, seeing, let's say, 10 patients a day, rushing back to back, just about managing to do the clean, maybe send them away with some incidental brushes, and that's it. Now it's a very different type of appointment. So they're taking the time to take some pictures. They're educating patients on what they can see. They're talking about all of the other treatments that they can that can be offered in the office, and how to get hold of them, and what that might mean for them. And they're sending patients away with a comprehensive report that they can review at home and share with their partner or whoever it might be. And at the same time, the dentist is also chairside with their assistant, reviewing patients, and again having that same conversation, using again custom tools for them to showcase to patients what a change in their smile might look like, or a change in their sleep might look like, rather than just a paint by numbers. Let's just get through the checkups, get through the day. And, it's not bad. You've not done a bad job, but you've certainly not gone out of your way to help your patients, get the treatments that they want. And you're not helping the practice achieve growth, which is what most people do go to work for, in addition to obviously making sure that they do a good job for their patient base.
Yeah, I think we want comprehensive care for our patients, as hygienists especially. For a hygienist or a DSO leader listening right now, what's the one thing they should do tomorrow?
Okay, so I think that there's a couple of things. So one, if growth is a priority, then it's not going to happen by magic. It needs to be a systematic approach to what bet you're going to make about how these offices are going to grow. So if you imagine that the office that I've just described, that office is doing 3-4 times the volume of specialty care just by doing a few simple things very, very well. And that is the mindset that we want to get people into, which is that there tends not to be unfortunately a silver bullet. There's a couple of things that you have to do systematically, and if you have the tools like what we provide, or if you build them yourself in-house, then you're much more likely to see change than if you essentially hope for the best by encouraging people to just do a better job. But in terms of what I would do on Monday morning, in this, on these topics, I think if you're a hygienist listening, one of the things I'm very, again, passionate about is making the case and advocating for hygienists that they play an essential role, and showcasing to the dentists and the owners that, look, this is the role that I can play in growth. So for 1 week, just have a conversation with every patient that you see, where it's appropriate, about their smile. Don't push them to do anything. Don't sell them anything. Just ask them, how do you feel about your smile? And just see what happens. More often than not, what we find is that if you ask every patient that, you will be shocked by how many people say, do you know, I'm glad you asked, actually. I'm not super happy about this. I've noticed that this crowding is getting worse, or that tooth is getting a bit wonky. What do you think? And essentially build the case for yourself that you are the right person at the right time to be involved in those conversations. And I think that's a good starting point for even hygienists to convince themselves that they are important, and perhaps more important than sometimes we make them feel. If we were a DSO leader, I would get stuck into some AI research, just to get rid of the fear of missing out, or the fear of doing something wrong. Like, just really start doing a little bit of homework. You might have to do it on your weekend, but I would do two things. I would look for an internal problem where you think, I think we could build something in a month to help me solve this. I'm almost certain it's going to be something around a KPI dashboard, or maybe it's an onboarding tool for your team. But again, it's back to that kind of what's internal only and read only, that's going to be quite straightforward. Maybe it's something around lead attribution, but something simple, and sketch out what you would want it to do and what you would want it to look like. Maybe you find a curious sort of operator within your business, and you say, we're going to work on this together, and just try and build it. AI tools are so good, not just at building, but also explaining to you how to build. I think if you haven't tried it, you'll be shocked by what you can achieve by yourself over the course of even a weekend. So that would be the first thing I would do. The second thing I would do is find a clinical or a sort of patient-facing or a regulated problem that you've been thinking about, that you really want to solve, and go and have a look around for some specialist vendors in the AI space that can solve those, and really ask for some demos. Really get under the hood and really try and understand whether these tools can help you solve the problem that you have. as opposed to the earliest scenario that I painted, which is I've seen an AI tool that's been marketed heavily and looks really cool. I think I'll give it a go. Start with the problem that you think is bugging you, that is hard, that is sort of high risk in some ways, and figure out whether, without committing to necessarily buying anything, just have a look around and see if there's anyone who can really solve that problem. And if you do both at the same time, not only will you learn about AI and feel more confident with it, you might also find a tool that's genuinely going to be transformative for your business.
That is very good advice. Dr. Sonia, if our listeners want to get a hold of you, how do they go about doing that?
If you want to find out more about O1 Health, go to www.o1health.ai. So you'll see, hopefully, a lot of the things that I've described. If you want to connect with me personally, LinkedIn is the best place. So I'm sure you'll put my name. My name is relatively difficult to spell. So Sonia Szamocki, and I'm more than happy to connect with people on LinkedIn who are interested in these topics.
Well, thanks so much for being on the show today. We learned a lot.
Thank you, Christine. It's been great to be here.
Thank you for listening to the DSO Hygienist podcast. Please follow or subscribe to be alerted of new episodes.